Now that we know how a software development cycle looks like and what are their various phases, in this lecture we will figure out how applications were developed conventionally without embodying CI/CD culture. And for the example, I guess a food ordering mobile application would be easy to correlate with. Just assume that a mobile application has to be developed as project requirements. Now to develop this application, as we saw in previous lecture, the development process will go around this incremental cycle from one stage to the next. Guys, since we will be more concerned about the development and deployment stages, so we will not go deep into the first three stages. So let's just assume that the first three phases of requirements gathering, defining, designing are already done and the building phase has started. That is, the developer teams have come into picture. Now let's start. Generally, for a large scale development, the software development team itself is divided into multiple different teams with each team performing different roles. For this example, we will consider there are two teams, the front-end development and second, the back-end team. And they all maintain their code onto a source code repository Git. What is this Git? I believe you all may know. Git is a free and open source distributed version control system designed to keep track of projects as they change over time. You have multiple platforms available in the market that provides you this functionality like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. Anyway, now since we have multiple teams working together and also multiple team members parallelly working, so to keep their code separate and isolate from each other, you may have multiple branches of the code, each branch having a unique version of the code. So for example, one engineer can be working on the payment gateway, two engineers are working on menu, some are working on databases. Like this, many engineers would be working on different parts and writing their own set of codes in their own branch and parallelly testing it, writing more codes and testing it. All of this in their own branch, or in the worst case, though which is very rare these days, they don't even use any Git platform. Rather, all the codes are kept locally in their own systems. Now when a certain phase of code is completed, let's say after a few days or weeks, and since the team members were working on different branches, the code from each branch needs to be compiled into one set of code onto a master branch in order to get a holistic code for the application. To do so, the code from all the teams is sent to a build and integration team whose responsibility is to integrate the code into one entity. After the integration, the code is compiled and a software package is built out of that compiled code. With this set of actions, building phase gets completed and the development cycle is moved on to next phase. Moved how? Manually. The compiled software package is then handed over to the operations team for deployments. Guys, along with the package, the build and integration team also provide them with the instructions on how that software will deploy and run. Instructions like which tools are required and should be installed for the application, which libraries are needed, or it can be a list of variables and configurations. Like for test environment, use these set of configurations and for production, use the other. So basically, all the prerequisites and instructions on how that software will run are written in those files. Now the operations team, reading from those files, first deploys the software onto a test environment so that an end-to-end testing can be done, and this is where the test and quality assurance team comes into action. During this phase, QA team checks for any bugs and defects in the code and tests if the product matches the original specifications. If at all any defects are found, which obviously they will find, nothing can be perfectly made in a single shot, then those defects are communicated back to developers for correction. Now development team has to fix the bug, which means the whole phases of development, unit testing, integration, compiling are repeated back with that modified code, and finally the modified code is sent back to QA for a retest. Now this process is highly iterative and it continues until the software is bug-free, stable, and working according to the business needs of that system. Once the code is passed from testing team, the operations team then deploys the latest software code package on the live production server and is made available to its appropriate market. So, to correlate with our mobile application, you can say after deployment, the application is available on Play Store. Please note that all of these rounds are just for one-time release. Once released, whenever a new feature needs to be added into this application or the existing ones needs to be updated, the whole development cycle has to be repeated. Guys, this one development cycle that we just saw is generally known as an iteration. and each iteration in this conventional software development lifecycle can take from weeks to even few months. Anyways, so this is how people used to develop software conventionally without embodying CI/CD methodology into their development culture. You would have already got the essence that this is a very time-consuming and error-prone process. In the next lecture, we will find out what are the drawbacks of this approach and why there is a need to adapt a modern CI/CD work culture. Thank you.